Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing. I'm your host, Glenn Thayer, and today we're talking about the web visitor with co-founder and CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Glenn.
You know, the web visitor is probably the most important person when it comes to website design, but yet companies spend very little time understanding what they want or what they need. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's important to understand that even though we may feel like the internet's been around a while and we use it every day, it's a very new medium to business. When you take a look at business operations in general, like take a sales and marketing department or an accounting department, there are fundamental business practices that now are in place and are very consistent across different types of businesses and business models. What you find that with the web, all of this is still being invented and still coming together. There's no real method in place for how to run a website for a company or a web marketing team. And then when you throw in the fact that people get busy and priorities get pushed down to the bottom on the web on website issues, and then you have politics of different types of people working on the website and personal agendas, all of those things lead companies away from the web user, and in many cases lead them away from even having an effective website. The other thing that happens too is because of these issues is that a lot of assumptions are made. So you'll have web marketing meetings where 2 or 3 people will make assumptions about what they think the website needs to do, and in many cases they forget what exactly is needed by the web visitor.
Now, isn't it true that most of the IT departments are the ones that are dealing with most of the web design, or should I say implementation in the back end, and not the marketing department, which is what it should be?
Absolutely. And then what you see happening then is that the issues that are important to IT come to the forefront, and you find that there are more concerns about the technical back end issues of a website as opposed to, well, what's a web user looking for? What's a visitor to the website looking to do?
Now, you mentioned that as far as visitors, what are they looking to do? What are your thoughts on web visitors, on how they interact with a company's website?
Well, it's important to understand that without a website visitor, there's no need for the internet. So they basically drive the web. They're the most important part of a website and the reason you have a website. And that visitors, they vote in silence is kind of the way I like to put it. They're on your website and they're doing all of these things, but those things are critical to your business and your business model. And so watching what they do and how they vote as they click around your website is a very important thing. The website visitor really is the connection between success or failure on the web. It's also important to know that these folks move quickly in their decisions. You can see this in website stats where pages are looked at for 10 or 15 seconds. So people are moving very quickly through websites.
Or when they're just log on to the homepage and that's it.
And they're gone. Yeah, and it's very common. In fact, in the stats that I look at, it's very fair to say that about half the websites that are looked at by a visitor that visitor will leave that site within 30 seconds. So what I want to talk about in this podcast is 2 distinctions here between how a web visitor thinks and operates on a site. The first thing we want to consider is what they want, what they're looking to gain for themselves. And the second thing we want to consider is what they actually do on a website to get that value or to get what they want.
Well, how do you find out exactly what a web visitor wants? I mean, there's several ways to do it, but what are a few that a company can use right away to really find out what their visitor, what their ideal customer may want online?
It's a great question, and here's the interesting part of that question, is that the answer is common sense. But in this case, common sense is not so common. What you need to do is you've got to talk to these people. You've got to go out and start a dialogue with them. And there's lots of ways to do that. We actually had a podcast recently on market research. You've got to implement a market research strategy that does really 2 things. One is looks at user testing and then website stats and analytics to see what they're doing on the website. And then you've got to ask surveys, and you've got to put together focus groups and actually go out and ask them then what they want. Okay, so using those 2 parts of market research, you start to get a better feel for what the web visitor wants. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts, is that you've got to plan before you build, and the whole concept of market research and an internet marketing plan then um, will help you set the structure before you actually build a website.
You mean you can't just have this really cool flash intro on your page and people will stay there?
Well, for the most part, it's probably not what they want. And it's certainly not going to help them get what they want.
Well, you mentioned as far as finding out what the web visitor wants. Well, obviously, we have two different types of web visitors online. You have your business to business user that's looking for information, maybe white papers or research. And then you have your business to consumer, the people that are maybe going to Amazon.com, utilizing eBay, using some of the online retailers such as Best Buy, who do have a brick and mortar presence, but they also have an online presence. Right. How do you distinguish between those two?
Well, you can basically boil down everything. What a visitor wants to do is really boil down to a couple things, okay? And we can kind of cut to the bottom line here. They're either looking to get information to perhaps improve their job or to solve a problem, or they're looking to enhance their lives in some way and have fun. So it doesn't matter if they could be consumer, they could be business to business, whatever. That's basically what they want, okay? The key part of this is when they do go to the web, they want it to be intuitive. Now, there's a great book out there on usability of websites and intuitiveness of websites. It's called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. And if you're listening to this podcast, you really have to get this book. But the title is just pure genius. People don't want to think. They just want the information or they want to enhance their lives. Now, some other things, we've done a lot of market research. And in this time, we've observed hundreds of people in usability studies. We've done hundreds of surveys, and so we have a lot of data back. And I'll just tell you really quick what people want. One of the top things they look for is product or service offerings. They want details on purchasing, on pricing, on shipping and delivery options. They want to get there in as few clicks and scrolls as possible. This is a very important point. When they're clicking and scrolling, they're thinking. We don't want them to think. We want them to just get what they want. They want to know where they are on the website so they don't get lost. They don't want to have to leave this site and start over with another website. They want to see a combination of visual elements and scannable text as they move around the site. Now, you can have as much information as you want on a subject, but when people are scanning and searching, they want visual elements and brief scannable text, and they can dig deeper for more content.
Now, how does that affect as far as visual elements? You mentioned that. How does that affect with having a lot of multimedia and being heavy on multimedia? I know a lot of websites out there, you go to it, especially if you go to mtv.com, obviously you're going to want to see music videos. But if you're going to a website that sells windshield wipers, do you really want to see a full flash presentation on windshield wipers?
Here's the thing about the web, and it's an interesting question you bring up, is keep it simple on the front end, no matter what you're selling. But on the back end, go as deep and complex as you want. So if you're selling windshield wipers, you might have a simple photo of a windshield wiper on the product information page, but you could have volumes of information on how these things are made, how they're used, videos on the manufacturing process, and demonstrations and so forth, and it could go on forever. That's the beauty of the web. And so you're meeting the needs of the analytical visitor who wants to dig deeper and wants to be overwhelmed with information. And you're also meeting the needs of the brief, quick, scanning visitor that wants to make a quick decision.
So really keep it simple is what you're really saying.
Keep
is on
it
the
simple
front
on
end.
the front end, yeah.
Keep it simple. Let people have it be intuitive where people want to go and say, hey, I want this information. I need to click here or click here, and it'll take me to where I want to go.
Keep it simple. And one of the most simple things you can do is have contact information on every page. One of the things that's still prevalent on the web, and this was really bad a few years ago, but it's still out there, is that consumers want to know that they can trust your business and that this is a real business, it's a real website, and it's legitimate. And so contact information and locations and even photos of staff are real important. Really, and the bottom line is they want the website to be intuitive. They don't want to have to think. And you can do this effectively by getting inside their head and thinking the way they do.
So they're going to still want it. So as far as a web user is concerned, they're going to still want that phone number. They're still going to want to be able to pick up the phone and say, hi, I have a question, if it's not answered on the website.
Or drive to the office.
Exactly.
It's still the brick and mortar thing's still there. But some other things that we've thought about and looked at in our research is what is going on inside the head of the web visitor. So if we get inside their head and we think, what are they thinking? Well, I'll give you a few ideas of what they're thinking. First of all, they'll come to the website because they have a problem or they have a desire for something. Okay, so they have a problem, they want to solve that problem, or they have a desire for some kind of enhancement in their life. They need information or something. So the first thing they're going to say is to themselves is, what is this site about? Am I on the right website? Once they do that, they figure it out, then they're going to say, what is of value to me? How do I find what I'm looking for? What can I do on this website that's going to help me understand what's of value to me? They'll begin asking themselves questions like, should I be somewhere else? Where am I on this website? How did I get here from the home page? Should I use the navigation bar or should I use the search function? Is this everything that there is on this site? And so these questions then need to be answered very clearly in your website design and structure. And then the other things that they'll ask, which I think are great as far as a marketing tool, is they'll want to know, should I go ahead and buy on this site? And if I do, how do I do that? Can I trust the site? Is it safe? And a really good one is, is this cool enough that I should tell others about this website? Because we know the internet, it's just so easy to transfer information via email. People think that, is this site so cool that I should tell others about it? And if you think about your own website experience, these are the things that run through your head as well.
Now, is it something else? I've been out on the web lately really trying to look for things that are appropriate that I can add to my own arsenal of information, of eclectic knowledge, if you will. Have you found that people are having more or less newsletters delivered via email? You can sign up for our newsletter, whether it be for debt consolidation, get rich quick, whatever it may be. Are you finding people are doing more newsletters or less newsletters?
I think overall people are doing more newsletters. I think what they're doing is they're being more selective on the quality of those newsletters. And I think that there's probably a hierarchy where, a certain newsletter is going to get read because it's really good, but then there's probably 5 or 6 or more that may get read, depending on the subject that comes through or their time. I know for me personally and the folks that I work with, we subscribe to lots of newsletters, but we don't always have the time to read them. But there's usually 2 or 3 that we're going to read. And that's because the value there is so strong. So the bottom line with this is that, yes, people are reading email newsletters. Yes, it's worth your time to put one together, but it's only going to get read if the value is strong and if it's something that really can help people with that, once again, with that desire that they have to enhance the quality of their life or to solve the current problem they have at work, at home, or at home.
So you really have to have great content, and then that will drive it to tell all your friends about it, forward this to your friend, or whatever it may be.
That's the key.
Well, also with that newsletter, it also can redirect people back to the website. Hey, here's something new and improved that we have. Check this out, and bring them back to the website. Well, when somebody clicks a newsletter, goes back to the website, what else can the user do? What else have you found that the users do when they're on the website?
Well, we've kind of talked about what users want. They want this value to help them with their lives. Okay, how do they do that when they're on a website? I mean, that's really so.
Or exactly what do they do? What's in the mind when they come to the website and they're like, okay, how do we operate from maybe a physiological or psychological reasoning, if you will, on the web?
Absolutely, because these are the key things then that as a company we need to focus on when we build a website. Okay, so you've got to have an understanding of what the specific tasks are that someone has in mind when they come to your site. Because people, when they head to a website, and we've seen this in user testing, is they have a specific task in mind and they will focus on that. This is the majority of people. Some people browse, but for the most part, they're directed when they go online. They start in the upper left-hand side and move across the page because that's what we do when we read a book, and we've been trained to do that. So the most important information needs to be in the upper left-hand side. People then will ignore anything that looks marketing or sales focused. So anything that looks like a banner ad or is trying to draw attention in or is flashing or is bright colors is just ignored because people feel like if they click there, it will take them somewhere else and they'll lose value. Even if it's the most important thing you want to have highlighted on your website, people are going to ignore that.
Just make sure that doesn't look like a banner ad.
That's right. What it can't look like a banner ad. In fact, the place to put it is in the navigation bar, because after people scan left to right, up and down, they then find the nav bar, and that becomes their anchor, and they will spend most of their time on that nav bar And they'll basically start looking up and down the nav bar for this information or for a link that makes sense. Now, they usually will start with the top links. Those will get the most clicks, and then they'll move down. They scan quickly and they move fast. It's amazing.
What do you I want to talk about nav bars really, really quick here, because that's something that is a bone of contention in the design world. And some people say you should keep it on the left. Some people say you should mix it up, put it on the top, put it on the right. What exactly is the proper way to do it to really get the most effectiveness from your navigation?
Well, it's interesting. One of the things that we recommend is to always have the nav bar, your main nav bar, either across the top, with the main links from left to right, or have it on the left side because they're going to start their search on the left side. But, people will use that nav bar as an anchor. So it could be on the right, it could be in the middle, it could be anywhere, but they'll just count on it being an anchor. One of the things that has been out recently because of some new technology is what's called eye track studies. And these eye track studies, they actually use what they call heat sensors to actually place colors on your homepage or whatever page you're looking at to show where people's eyes are focused. So let's say, for example, a red color to blue is the spectrum, with red being the most popular areas on the page and blue being the least, okay? The nav bar is red. All the other areas are going to be either not even looked at all, or a light yellow or something like that. Users this is what they're doing. They're filtering through clutter. If you can remove clutter from your site, then you get results.
Okay. Well, we end each one of our podcasts with an action item plan. What are the key action items for our listeners today?
We've got some good ones today. Number one is to develop an outline of who you think your ideal web visitor is. And brainstorm some things about these folks: demographics, geographics, psychographics, all the different things that make them up. Write those things down. This is your target market, and you want to get to know them. Look at your website and develop a best case user path. Basically, what this is if someone comes to your website, write down what you think would be the best places for them to click with that end result, whether it's a purchase or an inquiry, whatever that might be. Get a top-of-the-line analytical tool like ClickTracks, and you can go to clicktracks.com so that you can actually see these user paths and you can measure everything. You shouldn't need to make assumptions on what people are doing on your website. There's all sorts of tools out there that will just tell you what they're doing. And you can do market research. Market research is, bring users in, put them on your website, and watch what they do. So it takes the assumptions out of it, and it makes things a lot easier. So remember, remove clutter. And keep in mind, what these visitors are thinking as they're on your website. Make that a priority, and you will see great results online.
Well, you heard it, folks, straight from Tom. This has been the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. And for more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitivewebsites.com.